Hey all you Luminous people. Today I got to sit down with Rebeca Sanchez, the founder of LEDSCONTROL out of Barcelona. Her lighting design firm focuses on controllable LED installations in the nightclub and venue design scenes. We met each other back in 2016 while I was on a trip through Europe, and we've been in touch ever since. She's a super cool person, a talented engineer, and a brilliant lighting designer. Her work can be found in venues all across Asia and the Middle East, or you can just check out our website, ledscontrol.com. Our conversation was great, and it round its way around the fundamentals of lighting design using controllable LED. We discussed our history, compared our artistic styles, and the differences in the tech that our companies use. It was a super fun conversation, and I can't wait to kick it with her again next time one of us is in the other's backyard. I really think you'll enjoy this episode. How do we meet each other? We met each other what was it, 3 years ago?
Around that, 3 or 4. I don't know, you have more track of your trips to Barcelona than I, so I don't know.
Yeah, this is true. Well, I met you in Barcelona because I was visiting a friend, and I took the opportunity to travel around and meet light and new media artists all over Europe. And I found you guys because your company is very, very similar to Digital Ambiance. And the work that you guys are doing is super cool. It's very inspiring. It's mostly it's like architectural lighting installations in nightclubs specifically.
Yeah. Yeah, I will tell that the kind of work that we do, or, when I try to explain what we do, it has been evolving in the last 10 years since we started, because originally it was basically LED consultancy and control for architainment, basically. And then after a few years, 2-3 years, we start doing this custom designs for clubs. And right now, where I feel more comfortable to explain what we really do is basically we create mainly bespoke objects or bespoke pieces that mainly communicate with light. But it's not only that, because more and more we are getting into, materials. I think I personally got into this kind of obsession of hiding the technology.
Yeah, well, it's lighting integrated into architecture.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. Do you use that term, architainment? Is that like a term?
I don't like the word because
everybody hates that word.
Yeah,
I hate that word, but I don't know what else to call it.
Well, it's media architecture as well.
New media architecture?
No, not new media, just media architecture or...
Wait, media architecture?
Yeah, media architecture.
Never heard that. No. But it's funny because you want this one word, right, to describe, the industry or what it is that we do. You want a simple word, and architainment sucks.
Yes, I don't like, and even for a Spanish speaking person, it's even difficult to write it and to pronounce it.
Yeah. But then it's new media lighting, permanent lighting installations.
I've seen in some lighting design studios that work with dynamic light, or let's say digital. Even digital lighting sounds like from the past, right?
Right, it does. Yeah. Digital lighting.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, let's say this light that has a kind of a breathing and a voice.
Yeah. But that's still a shitty description to tell somebody look on your website in a sales pitch. Anyway, someday humans will create a word that accurately describes what we do.
Yeah.
And at that time, we can put it on our websites.
Yeah.
So we met 3 years ago, came through Barcelona. I was like, LEDSCONTROL. These guys are doing crazy shit. I want to meet them. So I messaged you repeatedly, I think, and then finally got you to respond. You're like, all right, fine, let's meet for lunch. You met me in Barcelona near your offices with your business partner, Miguel.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Yeah, we just like hung out. And...
No, I was just like, who is this guy and what does he want to sell? because it's the first thought that we are in this, sadly, in this society where mostly everything is about what are you offering to me or what do you want from me.
Sure.
And it was very nice just to meet somebody that was just trying to but just meeting people and see what's going on in the scene that we are, and just have lunch and talk about whatever,
which is basically what we're doing now.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely, that was the goal, was to just like meet and hang out. Yeah, and then it's crazy because this last time that I was in Barcelona, we ended up hanging out again, and now you're doing projects in Las Vegas.
Yeah, we are having our first adventure in that league, and we are very, very excited to see, after all of these years, how we are able to come with something. If I say different, it sounds identify more with something that we blend like different cultures, because the context of the client and because where we are based. So we are trying to make a good cocktail of Asia, Europe, and America.
Because you're doing a club design.
Exactly. So we have been working since the last 2-3 years with the Souk, that it's a nightclub thing, one of the most old and, let's say, that they have been in the industry for many years, for more than 20 years.
Yeah.
And we were the ones who participate in the renovation of the initial Souk that is based in Singapore. Then we did the one that it's in Genting Highlands. That Genting is the company who owns Souk brand right now. And now they are opening next year Resource World, that is where Souk Las Vegas is going to live.
Yeah.
So there is where we are now starting to create and to, just starting.
So when you guys come in to do a club design, is it like from zero? Like before the club is laid out, before anything is laid down, like what stage do you guys come in?
It depends on the client. Sometimes we start from scratch, and it's of course our favorite way of working, because we work very close with the architects and with the interior designers, because our aim as lighting designers is to glorify or to make beautiful the architectural space without distortion, or just creating different phases of the place itself. But if you're able to work closely with the ones who are like designing the void or the canvas where you are going to play, is more interesting for the project. So sometimes we are able to do that, like it's the case right now for Souk at Las Vegas and many other clubs. But sometimes we are called a little bit late. So what we need to do is like to adapt of whatever it's there. And the other reason why it's interesting to be involved in the beginning is because there is a lot of technology that has to be hidden in the space, and a lot of wiring and a lot of like electronics. So if the place is already designed, there are no right places where to place the technology, so it's a little bit inconvenient.
That's been our struggle, right? Because we usually don't do nightclubs. We do like more like hospitality and office and like facade work, and we inevitably get called in at the end. And then it's like, well, everything's built, everything's designed, so it's really hard to hide the tech, right? Which is in the end, that's the goal. That's what you have to do. You have to like hide that gear so that you can't see the fixtures. But nightclubs are different, right? I mean, nightclubs, there are a lot of visible, like fixtures you can't hide, right? I mean, there's a lot of integrated fixtures like LED that's embedded into the architecture itself. But then you've got, like moving heads, and you've got stage lighting, which is almost by nature, that's going to be visible.
Yeah, but the problem is not, I mean, you play with a positive factor in nightclubs, that is darkness. So because you control really the quantity of light that you have in the environment, even if you have moving lights or whatever elements that have a volume, it's not really a problem. And we are always talking on a scale of places where usually we work on places where we have height enough, and sometimes you have no height to where to place the moving lights. But I think the key point on the design on a nightclub, and I think in general in lighting, is about the contrast and the quantity of light that you have.
That's a really cool point.
Yeah.
And it's a really cool way to look at it, is like you start with darkness and then you add light.
Exactly. You paint with light whatever you want people to see. And that's like
it's very much, that is like the theatrical paradigm, because in architecture or in a building, you've got conventional lighting to deal with. So it's almost like the effect lights, the effect lighting, like the accent lighting that we're designing. It's added to an environment that's already lit. But for you guys in a nightclub, you're working with nothing. Mm-hmm. Like there is no lighting until you add that lighting. And that's got to be very freeing.
Yeah, and what is interesting, I've been appreciating more and more the opportunity of working in the nightlife industry. It's historically in my career that I've been like 18 years working on this. At the beginning, I was a light jockey, so my approach was to experiment with people's reaction, and if it was really true, if people get more excited if you use a strobe in the right moment. I was like doing these first experiments at the beginning, like for me was the translation of music in for the eyes. It was like this kind of language that I was exploring at my early stage. And then over the time, I like in certain point of my career, like underevaluate myself of being in the nightlife, because it's like a lot of people in the industry, and maybe it happened to you or even for you, it's like, oh, nightclubs. It's like,
Oh, absolutely.
Not many, it depends. It's just maybe certain league of nightclubs around the world where you might think that you're proud to be in, but it's not true. For me, over the years, what I found in this industry is like, it's a black box, similar what you have in the theater, where you can experiment. Mm. And there are different layers of lighting that you require to really create a story over the night, because people is arriving, producing themselves for the night, having maybe an expectation of maybe living with someone or not. It's such a kind of social gathering and interaction between humans, that your scope or your aim is to promote that interaction in a nice way,
Well, you're creating a vibe.
You create a vibe, and you have like whatever hours, let's say 8 hours, 10 hours, depending on the club, how open it is by night. So you have those hours to tell a story.
Yeah.
So the story begins.
But it's an emotional story.
It's an emotional story, and you play with all these moods. Like when people arrive, there is a layer that is architectural lighting. So you have the place itself needs to look beautiful and homey and like welcoming people, and you have all these, the bars, and you don't show everything at first. You need to disclose, over the time, and
every
it's like
story has like a beginning.
Of course.
It builds. It's got a climax and a resolution.
And at the end, it's okay. Everybody goodbye. And it's when you put the service lighting.
It's funny because so I started VJing. That's how my career started. And it also started in nightclubs. I also reached that point of like disillusionment with the nightclub industry and that scene, but I was never responsible for creating the environment. You know what I mean? Like, just like being a light jockey, VJing is all about creating a vibe. It's about telling a story, and it's very much setting the emotional tone for the music in a visual way. But I definitely got sick of it. I was definitely got sick of the environment.
Yeah.
That environment.
I think we were very lucky. I tell you one thing, I started in Mexico. I'm Mexican. I was born and raised in Mexico, and I started when I was 17, 18. And one of the reasons why I left Mexico in like 14 years ago was because I was tired of being in the nightclubs. And I was looking to learn lighting design for architecture. And that's why I moved to Barcelona, where it's now like what I identify as home. And I say home in between quotes because being able to travel for many places because of my work, to be honest, right now, home is whatever I feel okay with the people that I'm happy, it's like relative concept of home, but anyway. So
home is a very relative term.
Exactly.
And it's definitely like
for travelers and entrepreneurs, I think, you get my point. So I escaped from the nightclubs from Mexico, and I arrived to Spain, and I found my way for a period of time in I will repeat the word that we don't like, architainment industry. So I was the one programming for lighting designers, for architects, for, in these kind of projects of media facades and back in the when the boom of the media facades happened
When was that?
It was like, I think, early 2000s. Like, I would say that my first like media facade projects started like in 2005, 2007, more or less.
In Spain or in Asia?
No, I was like, my kickoff was in Dubai. Actually,
wow.
I did the Dubai Airport Terminal 3 canopy entrance with a company from Spain, Mundo Color, who made the custom-made lighting fixtures for that project. So.
And you guys just came in and did the programming, or?
Yeah, at the beginning it was me. When I found LEDSCONTROL, it was a one-woman show. I had no partners. It was basically, instead of being Rebeca Sanchez around, it was a brand that I created because I didn't want just to be, I just made a brand. To make invoices.
That's how Digital Ambiance happened.
It was just to make invoices, to be honest.
Yeah.
And then I still keep some clients from the media facades, or let's say architainment, whatever industry. But then in 2011, that is when my actual partner came on board, Miquel Clot. He got this friend in Amnesia, in Ibiza, in this nightclub that has been, like, I think one of the best nightclubs of the world for many years, and is one of the oldest as well. And we happened to make an LED installation there that became quite popular. It was like this 3D array that now you see it very often in the Chinese clubs, with these digital tubes and so on. But back in the days, not in that scale, with a pattern of a 2D array and a 3D array in a kinetic structure. It was, I think there were no place in the world of that scale.
You mean like it was like a volumetric thing? Or?
Yeah, it was a volumetric thing, but combined with a 2D pattern, like creating a evolving, all the ceiling of Amnesia was covered by that kind of diamond kind of pattern that a lot of people copied and use it, or copy it, or it's not rocket science, right? So it's fine. But yeah, in that moment is when I came back to the nightclubs. But before that, I was purely, giving advice to companies on how to have good practices of LED installations, giving classes about DMX, workshop about programming with Madrix or other kind of softwares. So basically that was that before we made Amnesia. And then when we did Amnesia and YouTube has been always our channel to promote our things, then people start to contact us like, we want an Amnesia. And we were very clear since the beginning that we don't like to copy ourselves. Like, we are not this kind of design firm that will feel comfortable using the concept of a place that is as iconic as that club.
Well, you can't.
And
right?
reproduce it in another one.
You can't take a client's work or a product you design for a client and then sell it again and again and again.
No.
Because that would destroy the novelty of that installation.
And it's not only about the novelty. It's because each place has their own spirit. And each place has their own architecture, their own, vibe. So it's not...
It wouldn't fit.
It couldn't fit.
Yeah.
It could be similar style or whatever, at the end it's like styles or looks that you're looking for, but we don't like to do the same. And honestly, for me, it's like, what's the point? It's so boring.
Every installation should fit in the location that you build it into.
And should challenge the team to try to make something different, to find another techniques, another ways of fabrication, another kind of materials. Because if not, what's the point of doing this?
Well, I mean, at a certain point, that's the difference between a product designer and a design firm, right? Like, a design firm designs an installation specific for a client's needs, right? For the location that they're designing for, and the situation that they're designing for. Whereas, people who just pump out the same thing over and over and over again.
And I think it's also the difference between a team that is driven by passion or driven by money. And we are absolutely driven by passion.
Sure.
So that's another factor that we just basically, my favorite part of the projects are the initial brainstorms and the initial inspirations.
That being said, you can definitely see style in designers' work. Like, I can tell your work when I see a project that you guys have done. I can tell that it's you guys. It's like, you've got a style. I think every design firm has a style.
Yeah.
So you guys use Madrix, and that's like your primary weapon of choice when you guys do your design or your programming?
I must say that we are pretty much like a 8-bit enthusiasts.
8-bit?
Yeah, we like to work a lot with low resolution or pixel mapping kind of concepts.
Mm-hmm.
I just love the scale of what pixel mean, you know, in our world nowadays. So
bringing back images of Mario.
Yeah, or Pac-Man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So because we work a lot with pixel mapping, with low resolution stuff, we found Madrix very convenient because it has a very powerful patch editor, and the real-time rendering machine that it has, it's useful for us, and it's.
But you also know Sebastian, right?
I know very well the Madrix family, and I consider myself as part of the family, and we have a good friendship, and we have been supporting each other careers over the years. Just to give you an example, when we did Amnesia, it was a volumetric installation, there was no 3D patching. So the way we did the 3D effects for these waves and, you know, all these volumetric effects, it was made with a script So we play with gradients of grays to make an offset between layers to create like a more special kind of effects. And then we found a very funny way of programming that is not what you want, is what you achieve over experimenting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that a lot of programming ends up being that way, right? Yeah. It's like you have an idea of what you would ideally like to do, and then you've got the limitations of a tool or the confines of a tool. It's not necessarily the limitations, but the tool forms the box and the sandbox that you create your work inside of.
And I was mentioning this because when you asked me about the relationship we have with Madrix, is after we made Amnesia and all these volumetric installations became so popular, Madrix needed to release a software that could support 3D patching, like voxel mapping. So I must say in a very humble way that we kind of help to provoke the market, or at least Madrix, to develop that tool.
That's
because
cool.
It was a need.
Well, I was talking to Matt on the last podcast about this, how like the artist creates the need that drives the tool maker to create the tool that enables the artist to produce new works of art. So like every artwork is this collaboration between a tool maker and the artists themselves, or like the content maker. And it's interesting to see that like play out. We're doing the same thing with Smode right now. You know, we're pushing Smode in ways that develop their software that allows us to produce work that in turn drives them to create new features. Yeah. So it's really interesting.
And does it happen to you that you are a bug finder? Like, I don't know what I have, like...
all the time. Like, every time we do a big project with Madrix, I, like, flood that forum. Like,
it happens to me a lot, but in general, I have, maybe, I don't know, I like technology, and I'm a very, like, geek and software person, and I happen always to find the bugs. They happen to me. Yeah. Which I'm glad that they happen to me.
Well, that means you're pushing the software.
Yes, that's right.
So how did you meet those guys? Like,
Madrix?
Yeah. Originally. Like, did you just find them because they were making software that you could use to...
No, it's a nice story. I was very lucky in my career. I started, as I told you before, as a light jockey in clubs in Mexico. And then one day, I was a self-taught person, and I learned observing, and I learned like trying things, hacking things, and through the maintenance crew, and just being curious. And one day my curiosity took me to break. I was using, back in the days, it was like early 2000, I think it was 2001 or something. I was using Nicolaudi software, Sunlight.
Yeah.
With the very old interface that was like NT4, like a white. It's not even existing anymore. With a very old computer, and I happened to delete somehow the firmware of that interface, and it was a Wednesday, and we opened on Friday or something like that, and I was like, wow, why did I, what happened? And I found the distributor, and it was my mentor, Roberto, whose company in Mexico City is Sin Límites. And I just called him and I said, listen, I saw that you're the distributor of Sunlight. I have this problem. So he told me, just come and I will help you to fix the interface. So long story short, I ended up working for him. So he became my mentor. He was a very important person in my career, because he not only taught me how to program or I learned with him how to solder, how to give maintenance to moving heads. I was like, the girl for everything, like cleaning, moving heads, soldering, splitters.
Isn't that funny how that's how knowledge in the lighting industry is passed down?
Absolutely.
It's like through mentor to like Padawan. That's how it worked for me as well.
Yes, and I feel so lucky that I had access to work with him, because he also showed me a way of doing things right, and he passed a few years ago, and he was the most passionate guy, and everybody loves him, and he was like the master of the DMX in Mexico City. Like if you go to any nightclub in Mexico, the keyboard is set up to his style, and that the strobe is always on the enter or in the tab bar. It's like there is a style.
Interesting. Yeah. So what software did he teach you, or how did
Nicolau, the Sunlight.
Weird. He taught you how to program on Nicolaudi software?
I became super expert. I was like the help desk, and I gave a lot of feedback that features that now are in the software were because of we gave that feedback.
You're the only person I've ever met in my life who did show lighting with the Nicolaudi suite. I know. That's really crazy.
Yeah, I don't use it anymore, but I have I'm very grateful with Bruno Nicolaudi and Bruno Felipe, because in my early career, basically when I arrived to Spain, it was the only tool that I knew, and I made for a living out of their, because of their software, because I was giving classes and training, and I made gigs. I was the girl with the laptop, a MIDI keyboard, and a Nicolaudi interface.
Yeah.
And I was doing, I was renting my gear and myself for doing gigs, and that's how I make for a living at the beginning when I moved to Spain.
Yeah.
So, they are part of my story.
Mm-hmm.
Then what I was talking about.
Robert and Roberto the Madrix guys.
Oh yeah. So when I moved to Spain, one day, Roy, the Elinge, this is how we call him in Mexico,
how do you
went
call
to
him?
Elinge, which means engineer, but the short word of engineer, Elinge. He went to LDI. I think it was maybe, 2006 or something. I don't remember.
LDI is like the Woodstock.
Yeah, there were many things. So he met the German guys, and his first phrase to the German guys was like, "You know what? I'm going to be your best reseller in the world." And the German, they are German, and they were like, okay, hi. And he was the number one reseller or distributor in the world selling Madrix Neo, that it's the interview USB to that is not existing anymore. He made it.
What was that interface? It was like USB to DMX.
It's a USB
right?
to DMX One Universe interface. Yeah, that at the beginning when we started using pixel mapping, 1 to Universe was like enough. Now it's like that's nothing.
So did Madrix, in like OG Madrix, right? Did they even have ArtNet implemented? Was ArtNet a thing?
It was, ArtNet was a thing, not with their own hardware, but they were open to support any ArtNet devices like from NTech or Artistic License or Luminous or whatever.
Yeah.
So back in the days, I personally used a lot of Luminous nodes.
Mm-hmm. So ArtNet to DMX bridges.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or also some NTech.
Man, it's so funny because the world that we live in, I never convert back to DMX. Like DMX is such a archaic format that we just, or they're like a DMX universe is so few pixels that it's hard to imagine a show programmed with Madrix that a single universe or 2 universes or 10 universes would be sufficient to run the lights involved in a single installation.
Well, we work a lot with DMX because the background from my partner, also mine, is from rock and roll. I mean,
is from what?
Rock and roll is just to say like touring and doing
that's where I came from too.
Yeah. So we are used to the DMX protocol, and it's no longer, not just because of the limitation of the channels, but also because of the refresh of the signal and so on.
I mean, ArtNet is still DMX. All I'm saying is that I came into pixel mapping at a point when things had moved on from old school DMX, like the actual like DMX over a XLR cable.
Yeah. So you are in the SPI dimension.
Yes.
Yeah, which we sometimes are, but we still use DMX a lot because we work with very big scale things. So, but they are big scale. We don't mind on using 200 DMX universes.
Yeah.
In our installations. And the reason why sometimes we don't use SPI is because sometimes what makes you the limit on the count of the pixels is not the data itself, but the power. So the power drop and so on. So at the end of the day, if you make a balance, it sometimes create a lot of work to put, this power distribution in order to not have drop of voltage that will create you flickers or problems.
Yeah.
So at the end you say, okay, maybe I win in pixels per line, but maybe I have more labor to be powering again the lines very often.
Interesting.
You know what I mean? Because we work with huge pieces. So it's about power.
Yeah. That's interesting. We consider the power like a whole different system, right? Because all the installations we do, we pretty much do all the hardware from scratch. So when we do those designs, the power system and the data system are two like separate systems, right? Where we power the installations and we'll do the calculations for voltage drop, and then we'll inject power where needed. And then with an SPI protocol, you've got you can drive like 1,000 LEDs per output from your controller. So it's without going into like crazy semantics and getting down into the weeds, it's they're like two different systems. Do you know what I mean?
But you are running cables in cable trays that are, even if they are not running together, because it's not nice to put the data with the power, but at the end it's a matter of system architecture and wiring and manpower.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we love racks. We like heavy duty connectors. We like hearting connectors. we love like, this kind of very safety kind of stuff.
See, and that's the roadie in me.
We are super roadies. And SPI, when you start to use heavy duty connectors, it doesn't work because it's a protocol that it's meant for like short distance.
It's meant to communicate between circuit board.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So.
But we do use heavy duty connectors with SPI. It depends on the connector, and you have to measure the capacitance. But yeah, it's definitely a thing. It's funny. It's everybody's got their own style, right? And I don't think there is one way to every company that does this kind of work has their own set of best practices. And it's like a set of best practices that's been developed over years and years and years of trial and error. So the way that my company deploys an installation and designs an installation is probably completely different, or has similarities, but it's very different than the way that your company does, which is very different than the way that Moment Factory does, which is very different than Tate, and none of, they all work, but it all comes, there's no school. There's no college of this is how it's done. It's
and don't get me wrong. We use SPI as well, and we use all the protocols, DPI, whatever. The only thing that I would like that it can happen in the industry with the SPI is that there is no. I like things to be certified, and I like to be things. To be developed in a way that the industries agree with. Yeah. Like, the ESTA, the US, US IT and so on. So that you have paperwork to read. Yeah. As a developer, as a integrator, as who can I call to ask for a question? The problem with SPI, I think it's running too fast, and it's like each IC chip is a protocol, basically.
Well, this is true. It's a different language, right?
Yeah.
So you've got dozens of different languages, but the electrical protocol is the same, and there are huge problems with there are problems and there's benefits to SPI, and there's problems and benefits to DMX, and there's problems and benefits to ArtNet. But in the end, they're all just different tools, and they have different use cases. So, for example, when we're doing long distance runs, we absolutely use DMX because it's a differential protocol, right? It's differential and it's balanced. You can send it for hundreds of meters without problem. But when we're talking to pixels, we use SPI because it's a faster protocol, because we can get higher refresh rates and we can drive more pixels per chain. It's just different tools, it's like different protocols for different applications and different scenarios.
But I am just waiting for the moment, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think SPI protocol haven't been adopted. Like, for example, I have the handbook of the DMX that was, you can buy those booklets in Plaza Show or maybe in LDI and so on. Have you ever buy or find an SPI one?
I definitely.
From SPI?
Well, SPI is not like a company.
I know.
SPI is like a...
DMX is not a company, it's a protocol. But from SPI, you don't have that kind of handbooks of good practices.
You do. It's just, it's not like a user handbook. It's an electrical handbook.
It's an electronic...
manual.
And DMX as well. I mean, RS485, But what I want is that the entertainment industry...
Well, I don't think it was never designed for the entertainment. SPI is meant to communicate between chips on a circuit board.
It's the SD cards into computers.
Yeah.
Protocol,
which is fine. It's just, I think that you have to, in order to succeed in this industry, you have to be one part show producer. You have to be one part designer and one part engineer, like electrical engineer. And I'm not an electrical engineer by trade. And I've learned that, I've learned that in like a real half-assed way. But we have electrical engineers because in order to once you get far enough down into the weeds, right, into a project, none of this tech is off the shelf. The stuff that we use, none of it is off the shelf. We end up having to redesign, pull apart, tear apart stuff, redesign it, and it gets down to the electronics, like the engineering, like PC board level. So we inevitably have to work in that world. We have to speak that language. Like I don't, but I have to employ people who do, because a big part of, our value add as a company, right? What we make money off of is designing custom fixtures to fit the needs of a particular installation. You guys are much more into design, right? And we're much more like a production company. And I think that's where our companies differ, right? Like we're doing very similar work, but like, the area of specialization is slightly different, which is a good thing, because that's the way that we're able to work with like Moment Factory or with you guys or with an architecture firm, is that like we have a very specific sliver of knowledge. And that sliver of knowledge and that sliver of specialization is like we build custom systems from the ground up, from the PC board up. And so for us, SPI is like a very natural protocol that fits in to our toolkit. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, and I'm also, I like also the protocol, and as I said before, I also use it. Maybe I am little bit just Antiseptic is the word?
You're a purist.
No, I'm a purist, yeah. I like specific information and documentation. I like to, read manuals and blah, blah. And the other reason why I'm a little bit like, is because in Spain, there is a lot of people who buy their whatever pixels or strips in China, which is not the problem is not that, but the problem is that they don't know what they are buying. So we get a lot of calls because we are the Madrix distributor in Spain and Portugal, and we get a lot of calls asking like questions that are not related to Madrix, but about their wrong practices in their installations.
So I don't know how any company that deals with LED installations, right? Like your Madrix, the LED controllers that we use, I feel so bad for the manufacturers of the Pixlite guys and I've been guilty of this too. I've called them up and been like, dude, your shit's broke. And then like after, 2 or 3 days of slamming my head against the wall, it's like, oh no, I just fucking completely engineered this thing wrong. Or the LED was incorrectly configured so I feel for you. I understand. Like I would never, ever want to do technical support. It's almost as bad as coming into a project after it's already been designed and built and trying to fix it. Like I'll do projects from the ground up, from scratch, all day long, every day. I hate fixing other people's shit.
Yeah.
So and that's what tech support is. You're trying to fix other people's shit.
And when you distribute software that controls lights,
that's all you're doing. But you're trying to fix their shit over the phone.
Yeah, like I given it today, 5 a.m. I woke up and I already have like I don't know how many messages from these.
So wait, you guys are the tech support for Madrix?
Yeah, in Spain and Portugal. Yes.
Oh my God.
I mean, we are the distributors, and our responsibility is to give the technical support as well. So we get a lot of, it's normal. You sell a software, a hardware, so you need to respond for it.
So we're starting to distribute Smode.
Yeah. Welcome.
And I'm already getting like, not tech support questions, but it's just like inundated with, it's just a lot of talking.
It's a lot of talking.
It's a lot of talking.
But you know what? I'm right now. I have an amazing team, and I have Sarah and Guille that they are more and more getting more experts into the matter. So I am just solving those like the impossibles.
Yeah.
That sometimes. Thanks God I have the WhatsApp from Sebastian from Madrix. But he's my last call. Like I don't like to bother him because he's always very busy, and it's
I don't have his WhatsApp. I have his cell phone number, and I've called it.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, I love to give support, and I love to solve other people's problems. But as long as it's coming from the thing that I gave, that I solved, not because of honestly, I will help them even if it's not something that I solve, because it's the way I am. I like to help people.
These are the things that we think about. This is what we love to think about, right? Like I love thinking about. I'm on this group called LEDs Are Awesome, right? It's a Facebook group, and it's literally just like 1,500. Actually, I think it's up to like 5,000 LED nerds, and I just love I love seeing people's problems and like thinking about them and being like, oh yeah, no, I've seen that before. This is probably what it is. I have no financial stake in the game though, so I can easily just duck out when I get annoyed. I was like, all right, you know what? This is stupid. You're on your own. Sorry. That's cool though. Yeah, the Madrix guys are. I think every software is like a family.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Every software, every tool has like a group behind it. And it's like they've invested their whole lives into it, or a big chunk of their lives, and they have their own, user base. And it's funny because at LDI, that's how all the media servers are, right? That's what they all feel like. There's like the D3, or excuse me,
these guys.
Disguise guys.
Disguise guys.
I could never remember their new name. The Disguise guys. There's like the Pandora's Box camp. There's like the Hypnotizer crew. with like Nigel and all them. And it's when you come to LDI, when we go to LDI, we're going to go around and just hang out with all the media server people.
Yeah.
It's awesome because they're all just like us. They're just nerds.
Yes.
They're just like software nerds.
We are just a group of nerds.
Yeah. I hope you come this year. I really do. Yeah. We're supposed to do a talk. I don't think it's going to happen, but I can. If you go, I'll go.
Okay.
So tell me more about how you got started. You're from Mexico.
Yeah.
You had
I'm from Cuernavaca, Morelos. That is a little town that is like an hour from Mexico City towards the coast of Acapulco. Mm. And basically, I needed a job. The way I discovered light was through music. My first interest was about the music scene. I was, by coincidence, in a high school party in that nightclub, and I was just curious to see how things work, how the music is coming out of those speakers, and how the party was being run. I'm a kind of nerd, so I like to understand things, right? So I end up in the DJ booth, and when I saw all of that, all the records and the amplifiers and all how the mothership is driven, I said, wow, I would like to learn how to mix music, because I always like music, and I am a dancer. I like to dance, and I like so that's how I got interested into the club scene. Yeah. Because I wanted to be a DJ.
So did you get your first job through, was it Roberto?
No. I didn't know him before. It was really me just knocking the door to the DJ booth just to see how it was working. And I just offer myself like, listen, I would like to learn. Can I come over the weekends and just observe? And they say, well, you cannot just be here. You need to do something. So why don't you play the lights? Because back in the days, to be a light jockey, at least in Mexico, if you were interested on being a DJ, it was like the first phase, you are the light jockey.
Oh, so you wanted to be a DJ?
Yeah, originally, yes. Oh. So that's how I started moving the lights, because I wanted to be on the decks. And then after a few weeks, when I discovered the power of light, the light found me. Yeah. I said, you know what, guys? You keep your records for you. I'm continuing here and exploring what, all the potential of light. And that's how I started. It was really by coincidence. I was not even a party goer. It was a party of my high school. It was the first time that I was in a nightclub, basically.
Yeah. That's funny. You're like definitely that kind of person who can't just like, you're not a beach person. You're like, there's two kinds of people in the world, I'm convinced. There's like beach people who like can go and sit on the beach and read a book. And then there are people who cannot do that.
I am the second. Yeah. And then after there, I started to look for lighting training. I explore in the theater scene, and but I was like, no, I want something like more complete, and that's how I found like these masters or postgraduates in Spain, and that was one of the reasons why I moved there.
So wait, you moved to Spain to go to school?
Yeah, to study lighting design. Oh. Well, honestly, it was just an impulse. Yeah,
that's how
the lighting design.
Actually, no, I ended up here through Burning Man, which was an impulse.
Yeah, it was an impulse. It was like, I had a friend in Barcelona who had a friend. This kind of the friends of the friends, and I was 21, and I wanted to travel. I was a little bit tired of the nightclubs. And I was very clear that I didn't want to stay there for long, at least as an operator, as a night jockey, right? Yeah. So that's the only thing that I knew. So basically, one day I just said, you know what? Yeah, let's explore Barcelona. Just because I knew people, well, just one person. And in 1 month, I decided that I quit college, I quit my job, and I called to my mom to say, Mom, I'm leaving to Spain. And she was like, you are crazy. And back in that moment, I already knew Roberto, my mentor.
Yeah.
And when I said, Robbie, I'm going to Spain, he was, you are crazy. You need to finish college. You know, he was very academic. And I was like, it's just going to be a summer. You know, I'm just going to explore what is people doing there with light and, you know, see the scene there and so on. And then 14 summers passed. You know, it was like, and then, you know, I'm this kind of person that very receptive and very observing, you know, the situation and adapting to the reality that I'm living in that moment. And I really start from really scratch. Like I arrived with 50 euros, like, like really low key kind of a situation. And I started to research for training, for courses and so on. But at the same time, I was giving those trainings with the sunlight and so on. So that's
how did you find an avenue to train? Like when you got to Spain, no one knew you.
No.
You didn't know anybody. How are you giving courses?
There was the forum from Nicolaudi. Yeah. So I did a dynamic. Like every day I will wake up in the morning, go to an internet cafe.
Yeah.
And send emails to introduce myself.
Sure.
So I was basically I was doing like emailing rental companies, companies that could be interested on a person that knows how to program DMX. And I was announcing myself in the forum from Nicolaudi, like, hi, I'm giving training about this and that. And I started to have some gigs. And then one day, an engineer from Barcelona who happened to be working in a electronics factory where they started to make PCB boards of LED for lighting, because they were doing back in the days, you know, whatever kind of electronics you can imagine, you know, but not lighting. So when the high power LEDs came, they started to do LEDs for lighting. So they were OEM for lighting manufacturers in Spain, because Spain there is a big scene of lighting manufacturers.
In Spain?
Yeah.
That's interesting. I thought all lights came from China.
No, well, now yes, but back in the days, Spain was it's a lot of lighting tradition of manufacturers. So this engineer was looking for somebody to program their new showroom, where they were showing the first RGB and RGB white fixtures back in 2005. So I made a show control for them, you know, music synchronized with the lights for the LEDs. I remember it was like a Studio 54 or John Travolta kind of a floor, but in a wall, but with LEDs. You know, it was nice. It actually is what we are doing now, you know, like pixel mapping. But back in the days, people was obsessed with the high resolution LED screens. And I was telling them that no, the future was a low resolution. Yeah, it was very funny. I was really in a offset of time with that. But yeah, the thing is that when I did that showroom, the owner of the company said, why don't you stay? Because it was not in my, I didn't went to Spain to pretending I was going to stay. It was just
just a gig.
Just a gig. Let's see what happens. And then this, Joan Sanchez is his name. He said, why don't you stay? And,
oh my God, that's your name.
Yes, he's like a...
What if he was a secret relative?
Yeah, that's why it's what we always said. So he's the one who offered me to stay, and I just jumped into the train, and I said yes. And that's how I ended up living in Barcelona.
There's a train coming.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and then I work in Oslo Schwabe, Panasonic, and then I start my own project in 2009. So this is in December is going to be 10 years of LEDSCONTROL.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
10 years. That's the trick. I feel like that's like a magic year, right?
Yeah.
10 years is the amount of time it takes a design firm to really find its own footing and like really get on its own feet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're 7 years old. I feel like we're almost there. We're getting there. Not quite there, but we're getting there.
It's never there because we like, I think people like us, that we are like part creatives, part, it's like artists, but technical, but geek, we have like this, I think it's a disorder of personality or something.
I have plenty of neuroses.
We are never happy with our work. It's like a kind of I feel proud and happy of how things
but that's called drive. I think that's drive.
I mean, we are makers of, or we made things for Team Lab. I mean, it's like you for Moment Factory. It's like, wow, once you are there, it's like you feel proud and happy, but
it's never enough.
But you never think that you are there, because
I think that's drive. That's also what separates beach people from not beach people. Follow me here, right? Because, and arguably, like, so I have good friends and good family who are beach people, right? And they're satisfied with themselves, right? They're like content with themselves. And I've always envied that, because I've never been that way. Like, I've always been unsatisfied with myself.
Yeah.
Which in a way is kind of like, it's an insecurity.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm convinced that insecurity is what gives me like drive and motivation and propels me forward.
Yeah.
Whereas if I was just like, oh yeah, cool, I'm doing cool stuff, this is fine, I'm just going to stop pushing, or whatever, it would be easier. And if I was happy, like, there's also like this level of like fundamental like angstiness, right, that goes along with this whole thing that you're describing. It's like you're just never quite happy enough with yourself and where you're at. So you're just like always.
Yeah. And it happened to me a lot, beyond of being happy with me regarding my work. I have a big obsession of what I am doing that really has value for others. Like, is my work really relevant? That is, creating an impact, a positive impact on our society or in our sector. I always like to think that we can be part of a movement, a part of a change, a part of something that is worth to really continue doing what we are doing, and not just because it's beautiful or just nice. It has to be something beyond that.
Pushing the envelope.
Yeah. And I tell you a story about this like huge crisis that I had in 2012.
Wait, hold that thought. I want to get another beer.
Yeah.
Do you want one? You good?
I'm good.
Okay. Hold on, I'll be right back. I'm gonna bring one out just in case.
Yeah.
Just in case you change your mind.
Yeah, probably I will, because I work based on, as all humans.
Based on alcohol consumption?
No, based on imitation. We mimic each other.
So you're saying if I start drinking a beer, then maybe you'll see me drinking a beer and
I will feel
suddenly
like drinking.
Feel like you should have a beer.
Exactly.
Oh, well.
Especially with that sound.
You were going to tell me a story. You were going to tell me a story about something.
Yeah. So, well, I think one of the most, for me, there have been in these 10 years, 2 inflection points, or 2, how to say it in English, like, the bridge to the next step in my personal in my persona and in my career. So the first one, as Let's Control, before was, whatever, my red and all of that. But as a Let's Control founder and the company, in 2012, I got a huge crisis, like my work is not meaningful. And what am I doing with my life? And I'm not saying anything, and I'm doing just,
Was that that was Let's Control midlife crisis?
Yeah, maybe. It was Rebecca, 30. I was, no, not even 30. I was in 2012, 20, whatever.
Well, that's a quarter life crisis.
Yeah, so whatever. 29, 30, whatever.
Or maybe it was, what is it when your planet returns?
Yeah, like this cycle
Saturn returns? Is it Saturn?
Maybe, or
Neptune?
Or Mars. Mars is war, no? I was in war with myself. So it will sound really weird, but trust me that it happened to me. My brain was like in a kind of glitch or crash.
Yeah, I've been there. I've definitely had
horrible.
Those.
Yeah, it's painful. And I remember I took my car and I drove all the way to Cadaqués, that it's a beautiful little town up in the Costa Brava where, Dali was
Costa Brava is
it's beautiful.
Amazing.
And Rob, believe me, I was sitting down on a beautiful rock and I was observing to the ocean, and a word came to my mind that was nanoscience. And I said, of course, I need to publish and I need to help the scientists of the world. And I really thought that I needed to get my life into science somehow.
You told me about this.
Yeah.
Keep going. Sorry.
Yeah. So I started to study like physics and chemistry and read books about
like on your own.
Quantum physics.
Getting into it.
Yeah, and about quarks and stuff like that. But because I already was in the lighting industry, and because I needed to continue doing for a living, I couldn't quit on lighting, and I had Let's Control already, and I was distributing. I mean, one thing didn't mean to quit the other, at least not radically. It could be maybe a transition over the years, but not at that moment, because I needed, to make for a living.
Yeah.
So what happened is that I started to get very inspired about those concepts that were fueling me from the scientific world. So I started to dream about concept of lighting based on quarks, based on whatever particles, I was reading about. And it's very funny when you start to study again this science, this basic science, when you are in your late 20s or early 30s, you process information in a different way, comparing when you learn those topics when you are a teenager.
Well, describe what do you mean different?
Like
slower, faster, better, deeper.
Deeper.
Yeah.
Because you start to understand the existence itself, and because we are always based on our experiences and all of the information that you achieve over the years, then you start basically to connect dots. Yeah. So
that's the voice of experience.
Yeah.
You could take those and you can apply that to real life. Take those lessons, right? Those lessons and those theoretical lessons.
Exactly.
And apply those to concrete. Yeah.
So it was very fulfilling for me in that moment. I was discovering or rediscovering things in that moment of my life, and plus combining that with already my lighting skills and the creativity applied to that, I came up with an idea of creating a kind of immersive experience. That now is very normal to talk about immersive experiences, but in 2012 was not a topic, and not in Spain especially, because when you go to either a concert or a nightclub or whatever, it was always you observing to the stage.
Yeah.
Right? So I said, wow, that's so boring. Why not to create something more immersive, that the DJ is not the main focus anymore, that everything is interesting enough so you are just enjoying with your friends and everything has a nice environment. And, I try to to take out the center of the attention that is just in one place. That was my idea, right? And I was just, thinking, who could be interested on listening to this idea, And I don't know why it came to my mind, Richie Houghton, this visionary. And I was not even into techno music. I just had him in the back of my mind because I saw him in the Creators Project like months ago with Anish Kapoor interview, whatever. So I found him interesting because he was close to, contemporary art. Like he was not like a normal DJ. No, for me, the perception that I had from him since the first time was like somebody receptive to maybe hear my story or my idea. So honestly, I just wrote to him in his website, like contact form, info, whatever. Yeah, not even that. And I explained this idea, like the very bad thing. I mean, my English is like, I'm not native English speaker. So now that when I read it, it's like, oh my God, how could I write that? It's like,
that was probably part of the charm.
Yeah. So long story short, he replied to me the next day, like, who are you? And then, the story ended up that we became part of the production and all the, creative process for his Enter party. That was his first party as a solo in Ibiza in space. So we worked for him for all the seasons, like from 2012 to 16. So we established a collaboration of 4 years, think of my personal crisis. And that was for LEDSCONTROL. Like the first kickoff was Amnesia. Then the second kickoff was Richie. And then came all the clubbing in between and so on. And then came Team Lab 2 years ago. Yeah. So for me, those are like the three. And Team Lab was more like a confirmation that, yes, we are a very good team and we can do this kind of big scale projects for, huge, they are what they are. So it was not about the project. It was about the process of managing a very challenging client. Yeah. Basically. So it was, for me, was like a training on project management.
Well, I think that there's always like these mini plateaus, and then there's these mini, every company has those Herculean moments, right? That brings you up to the next level. And sounds like those were three monumental moments in LEDSCONTROL.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. All of them are. I don't. There are a lot of maybe smaller or less popular kind of projects that have been maybe more meaningful for me. Like, for example, the light art installations that we do at Lusa Festival in Portugal, in El Algarve, with my friend Bo. For me, more and more is about the people that you are working with in that particular moment and those memories that last forever. And it sounds super cliche, but it's true.
I mean, that's
because once you are professional and you are lucky enough to live out of the thing that is your passion, I think less and less it's about the relationships and the people.
That's all business is, right? It all comes down to relation. I remember when I realized that I was working at XL Video, right, in LA, and I saw I watched how the owner of that company, the people that gave him business, all of the bands that toured with us, all of the production companies that worked with us, they were loyal to him. They weren't loyal to the brand. They weren't loyal to they were loyal to the person, right? Like this one person. And that really drove home to me how business is about friendships. And now it's super clear in my mind how everything in the world, everything, whether it's business or, this microphone here or anything that you observe in the entire world is a product of interpersonal relationships. And you can be successful if you are able to navigate that world of interpersonal relationships in a way that produces the outcome that you're going for. And I wanted to come back to something you said earlier, though, because the whole immersive environment concept has been really blowing up, right? And you see it in Meow Wolf, which I don't think you know what that is, but it's what's the New York thing?
Yeah, I know it because you explained it to me.
Yeah. But what's the New York one that just happened?
Super real with
real.
Moment Factory. With
Yeah. And then the one in the Team Labs thing.
Borderless.
Borderless.
Mm-hmm.
These they're almost like museums.
Yeah, they are the ultra technologists museums.
But they're also like experiences, right? And they're like they're theatrical productions, but they're also kind of like performances in a way.
Yeah,
but performances and I think that's in my mind, I draw a direct line between that and Burning Man, which I know you haven't been to, but Burning Man is it is like the fundamental participatory event where everybody is a participant. It is an environment that's made by the people who attend, and like blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So I see that there has been a number of things that have kind of shifted the paradigm, but here we are now. And we're in this world where no one wants to sit and watch something on a stage. No one wants to watch TV. People want to be part of the show. Right. And I wanted to find out how you see that phenomena coming together with the work that we do, because I already am starting to get many requests from entities that want to produce these kinds of environments and these productions. Mm-hmm. And I know we were talking earlier about the nightclub scene, and I think that that's the future of nightclubs. Mm-hmm. I hate nightclubs, to be frank. I really do. I love the architecture. I don't like nightclubs, but I think that a really cool way to flip the nightclub experience, to refresh it, to reinvigorate it, and give it a new set of legs, to change that paradigm, would be to combine an immersive environment with the nightclub experience to create this new thing. I think it's only a matter of time before that happens.
Yeah. I think nightclubs, I am agree with you that I don't like nightclubs either. In the term as a guest,
it's okay. You can like nightclubs,
but don't tell that to my clients, okay? No, I think what is happening right now is you have this immersive experience that now are taken as if you go to a museum, you pay a ticket, you enter, and it's a selfie paradise, right? But I think the
selfie paradise. That's funny, man, because they're like Instagram,
photo opportunity.
Yeah.
This kind of.
What's have you heard about the ice cream museum?
No.
Okay, never mind. You should look it up, because that is the ultimate it's never mind. Anyway, go ahead.
I will. So I think we are in a very interesting moment, technology-wise, creativity-wise, everything. It's there to be blend and to be participating in order to create humans, to interact more between humans. So actually recently we changed our kind of slogan or phrase, and we say
LEDSCONTROL's phrase.
Yeah. Now we say that we create creative lighting ideas for human interactivity. And when I say interactivity, is we should promote creating places. We should create places that promote human interactivity. And when I say that, it's not people to interact to technology specifically, but that you create such an environment that you are talking to your friends, that you are sharing that experience, but you are living that present moment with the people that you are around, and you are observing them, and being playful with the technology, but not just being obsessed of being necessarily using your phone to take the picture or to use the app and so on. So it has to be, I think, as more and more we are using the technology as an extension of ourselves in a very natural way. Like, who was going to say that having your phone in your hand mainly all of the day was going to be normal?
Hey man, we're cyborgs now.
Yeah.
Gotta get used to it.
So spaces need to be like our cyborg, external cyborg, meaning that what we need to, I think, all these immersive experiences, putting them on nightclubs should create macro experiences. That is, had a big show, and it's always beautiful and fulfilling this to have goosebumps and all of that reactions when you see a mega show. But I think also we should have micro experiences in just in the scale of the size of your table where you are sitting down, or in walls, like in a very simple and natural way, that it doesn't give you excessive inputs that at the end of the night you are overload of things.
Yeah.
I think it's a matter of balance and dosification of those technologies. And at the end of the days, we humans don't forget that what we like is to dance in the cave with the fire.
Yeah, well, it's this really interesting.
This is what we really like.
It's this interesting paradigm, right? Where it's like you've got humans, and humans are really like 500,000-year-old like operating systems, right? And then you've got this technology that is enabling us to interact with each other in new and different ways. But again, it all comes down to interpersonal relationships. And I think that like a lot of venues, including like architectural venues, lose sight of that, right? Where it's like, okay, technology is cool, but technology for technology's sake is like cold and sterile and kind of pointless. Whereas technology that enables people to connect with each other and helps to facilitate interpersonal connections, actually, that's what engages people, and that's what makes people, that's what is compelling to people. So a truly successful installation piece is a piece that does that, right? It's like,
Yeah, I think another point about these immersive experiences in the context of nightclub, I think for me, nightclubs should turn into simply clubs or social clubs, as it was. I mean, you have some of these social clubs, but there should be just spaces where can be opportunity for artists to, express their content, their message, their whatever. And because it's an industry that, I mean, clubs nowadays, if you go to Las Vegas, they cost millions. And you have already artists doing great stuff there and so on. But I think more and more should be like a good opportunity of these kind of these club owners that not only on the big leagues invite artists to make creations. I think it should be something normal. It's like galleries, it should be.
So it should be like rotating art that comes.
Yeah, maybe it could be rotating art. And also I think it should be places where it's not only about the main artist, famous artist who is performing that night. It should be also just a place because you feel good to be there no matter who is playing. And the only way I think you can achieve that is if you ensure quality of content. And when I mean quality of content, it doesn't mean to have like a mainstream artist performing, because we are so many people in the world and so many talented people that need to have a voice. And I think these spaces should also promote like not the super famous, artists just doing their thing, and people paying whatever to look at them. I think it should be more inviting different, levels or of artists.
Well, let's break it down to a practical level, because I agree with you, but I think that like, how would you, so a nightclub, like if we ignore the financial needs of a nightclub, right, to like draw people in and blah, 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 to pay for itself to exist, like you can only have like so many artists per month or whatever, or per year. And there has to be some kind of curation, because you have to make sure that the people who you are allowing to say things, to express themselves artistically, have something worthwhile to say. Excuse me. And then nightclubs, the technology that's in a nightclub is going to allow for certain types of art. A sound system allows for a DJ, right? Or like a band to play, right? That's like a certain type of art. A lighting system allows for a certain type of artist to perform, like a lighting artist, or like a screen allows for a VJ to perform. How would you set up an environment that would allow many different, how would that work?
I give you an example, a very practical example. I think Ibiza is an example of that. For example, I don't know if you know El Row.
Is that a club in Ibiza?
No, El Row is a group of people from Barcelona who basically make theme parties. So basically they convert your club into, for example, one night it can be like a jungle, or I don't know, like a party from the 70s, or, like very funky parties where mainly they theme up your venue. So they fulfill everything with fabrics, and they bring like 40 or whatever number of artists, dressed up with very funky costumes. It's like a art of performance. They are performance artists.
Yeah.
So
it's mostly performance art.
Yeah, I think and I give this example because you have, I think, a club, or the formula that you find in Ibiza is that they give you like the canvas, and then every day is a different production. So one day you have Cream and you have certain kind of set. Tomorrow you have Cocoon and you have certain kind of set. So everyone has their own voice, their own style, and the club itself has its own character, and it has its basic, technology, their rigging, their whatever basic needs to their own parties that are part of their signature of the place. But what makes the dynamic of Ibiza, for example, is that people is going there because, for example, one of the ones that I like the most is the Flower Power from Pacha. That is, like these 70s, like the hippies, and it's super funky, and you have live bands and so on. So I think the future is this multidisciplinary combination between pop-ups, theme parties, and different kind of expressions that are not only necessarily have to be digital.
Yeah. Well, there's groups here in the Bay Area that are super on that tip. Yeah. Right? They're not really doing it in nightclubs, but they're definitely creating events and festivals that are immersive, and it's much more theatrical. It's not so much on the technology tip, but it's very much on like the installation art and yeah.
And I'm not telling you nothing new, or there is nothing new under the sun.
Well, no, I'm just telling that this is a new thing that's happening now. This is like the crest of the wave is immersion.
But I think what I'm trying to say is that those spaces need to serve for all of that. See, from performance artists, from pop-ups, music-wise, some food-wise. It has to be really, really multidisciplinary.
Yeah.
It's just the expression of whatever arts or non-arts possible.
So like one part nightclub, one part art gallery, one part theater.
One part gamers arena.
What?
Gamers, people.
Oh, gamers arena. Yeah, Jesus Christ, man. Gaming.
Why
Where
not?
the hell did that come from? No, seriously, man. Like, they have like Fortnite competitions that are bringing in like hundreds of thousands of people into stadiums.
It's an industry. Yeah,
It's
crazy.
insane. It's bigger than football.
Yeah, it is.
And like, how did that happen?
It is. I
It's
don't
because we
know.
live in the future, Becca.
Yeah, we saw it today. The delivery robot.
Oh God.
Yeah, I don't know, Rob. I don't have the crystal ball. The only thing that I hope is that our society can be exposed more and more into quality of content, because the only way of creating a society that can be more sustainable or more meaningful is when you feed them. It's like you are what you eat, right?
Yeah.
And you are what you hear, you are what you see. So in order to create a society that has more critical points and more opinions based on, you need to feed them with good stuff.
Jesus, does this like explain why America is like this?
Well, the world. So the only thing that I hope is that I can participate we can participate in a kind of a mini movement where we create more spaces, that we ensure that whatever is displayed there has its reasons and it's, at least trying to have a more value and not just like the easy formula or whatever, just because of the profit, to have the most with the less.
Are you satisfied with, do you feel like what we do makes a positive impact in the world? That's something that I've been struggling with, right? Because I am very much, I have a lot of friends and people who are close to me that are involved in like the NGO scene. Mm. And I ask myself, it's like, well, what am I doing? Yeah. I'm like making pretty lights. And it's like, I want to believe that what we do contributes in like a real sense to the well-being and the betterment of society, but I don't even know,
I only know one thing, that what I do it with honesty and with passion, and I do the best that I can, and I try to evolve myself and try to...
Son of a bitch. Well, it's not recording anymore.
No?
I mean, it stopped.
This guy is recording.
Is it?
Yeah. But it's not the same. So if it's not recording, what should we do? But it's not recording since when?
Oh, the card is full. Son of a bitch. I mean, it must have just stopped.
Yeah.
Damn it, that was a good one.
Well, we can finish here and see how it sounds.
Let's just finish here and see how it sounds.
So, no, what I was to finish is that the only thing that I know is that because of my passion on it started like a curiosity, then it became like a passion. And then because of that passion, I started a company, and then I discovered that what I like the most right now is to inspire people, meaning my team and my clients. And the only thing that I know is what we do is with honesty and trying to do our best and always trying to reinvent ourselves to deliver the best that we can. So I think because it has an essence that has a positive vibe on it, for sure, I think the space received that positivity and somehow it's reflected into the people.
Yeah.
And you might like or not, I mean, you cannot decide on others people why they go to those places. Like maybe for most of them it's just to have, a crazy party night where it's mainly, focused on, getting wasted or whatever. It's everyone's decision on why they go there. And it's okay because it's part of our human nature to express ourselves in whatever it's good for you and you're okay, it's fine. So I think what we do is, we are not doing something wrong. And I don't know you, and I think we have similar DNA on that, as Roberto, my mentor, used to say, we are not looking for the money, we are looking for the glory. And as long as I can participate in this, really trying to reinvent concepts or trying to, I think the most beautiful is when you start to find ways to invite people from other sectors to come into yours, and then you move to yours to another, this interchange, or this sharing ideas and sharing opportunities. I think it's already positive. And at the end of the day, cities and spaces, we humans recognize if there is beauty or like harmony, there is like, okay, So I think,
that's the conclusion that I've come to as well. It's like we're creating beauty in the world, and we're creating like good environments that are fostering interaction with people. So, yeah. Cool. Well, what do you think? I think this has been a really good conversation.
I think very much is what it is.